Hello and welcome to the special episode marking World Migratory Bird Day. So, today we are celebrating the wonder of birds, the incredible journeys that they make across landscapes and continents, and the urgent need to protect the habitats and migratory routes that they depend on. Birds are more than beautiful creatures we admire in the sky or through a camera lens. They are indicators of ecosystem health, vital players in pollination, seed dispersal, pest control, and an essential part of the natural world that sustains us all. In this episode, we are bringing together two fascinating perspectives. Joining us first is Nikhil Devasar, a renowned wildlife conservationist, author, photographer, and the founder of Delhi Bird. Widely recognized for popularizing birding in India, he is also the driving force behind Big Bird Day, a major citizen led bird monitoring event across the subcontinent. Through his books, field expertise, and powerful visual storytelling, Nikhil has inspired generations of birders and brought greater attention to India's rich avian diversity. We are also joined here by Amrit Menon, Senior Manager and Head of Wild Aid Division at the Wildlife Trust of India, where he works to address urgent threats to wildlife and their habitats. Over more than 16 years at WTI, he has contributed across projects, project planning, monitoring, evaluation of the projects, and fundraising. A passionate bird watcher, traveler, football fan, and a fellow anime weeb. Amrit also serves as Deputy Director for Philanthropy and Grants with the IUCN Species Survival Commission Chair's Office, hosted at WTI. Together, we will be talking about why birds matter, why migratory routes need and the habitats need protection, how photography can deepen our connection with nature, and why conservation is more important than ever. Thank you both so much for being here. Like to start off with, to begin with, I would love to ask both of you this. What is it about birds that drew you in personally, and why do they continue to fascinate you even today? So, sir,
It started
sir?
up basically as a child. I was always fond of the outdoors. I would bring birds and animals I found on the streets home. Started off with a simple curiosity that turned into a lifelong obsession with me. For me, birds are the ultimate messengers of nature's health. They are admired for their beauty and song, but they also provide a window into our ecosystems and functioning. Even after decades in the field, I'm still fascinated by the song and the colors. So it's just the whole beauty of birds is very fascinating for me.
Amrit, to you?
Yeah, I think there's two parts to that, me and also to the question as well. So I was brought up in a it's a remote town in Kerala. There's a lot of bird life around. There was a lot of wildlife around. And I think my association with them started at that very young age as well. I mean, my parents have stories that I used to play around with the crows that come and sit on the clothesline. I'll swing them around, or I'll feed the neighbor's chicken. But one in particular that I remember is like seeing, I think they were fantails nesting near my house. I didn't know what they were back then. They were just some little birds which spread their tail feathers and dance around a little bit for some display it was. And it's just later on when I started birding that I could connect with that. And I know that what that bird was, or I later see it. So I think that part, now that I work with WTI, gives me the opportunities to travel to some of these places, work with bird conservation in different places, and then you relate that to your childhood memory. I'd say that's what keeps me going. And of course, birds are charismatic species. They are beautiful. They're everywhere, and it's quite an experience to engage with them or see them and watch them. Go look for them rather.
Absolutely. As you said, I mean, we all look at birds and we all admire them for their beauty, their song, their movement. But beyond that, why do birds matter so much, both ecologically and emotionally? So, Mr. Nikhil,
So we must never forget that birds are essential for our own survival. They are nature's pest controllers, pollinators, seed dispersers. And to understand what happens when we ignore this, we need to look back. In the 1950s, there was something called the Great Sparrow campaign in China in the 1950s, where they thought the sparrows were eating all the grains. So let's kill all the sparrows. So they killed the sparrows, and as a result, the locust population exploded. And as a result, the locusts ate all the grains, and there was a crazy famine in the country. So basically, they aren't just part of the landscape, they are keeping the landscape alive.
Amrit, do you anything that you would like to add in here?
Uh, to what Nikhil has also said, I think they are good indicator species from a conservation perspective. If you're trying to work on a certain habitat or a landscape, some of the bird species in there can tell you how healthy the forests are or the wetlands are. And for conservationists or researchers, they can use that as indicators of how to monitor the work to see if they're doing well and or the health of that habitat to a certain extent. And that also is very important.
Have you come across a landscape where probably birds, the habitat was in a very bad shape, but then it was restored, and then things coming back with regards to birds, the balance coming back? Have you guys come across?
Unfortunately, I've come across the exact opposite of that, where there was fantastic landscape for birds, and over the years, we destroyed the landscape. Basically, real estate in our country is very, very expensive. So a piece of land which is a wetland is actually wasteland. That same piece of wetland which becomes apartment block becomes a crazy piece of investment for anybody who owns that piece of land. So I've seen various habitats over the years being totally destroyed around NCR, in Gurgaon, in Noida, where there was once a thriving bird population, now there are apartment blocks everywhere. So quite the opposite of what.
True. I remember Amrit and I, we were at that biodiversity park in Gurgaon, and we're so lucky that the park is there. So you did see quite a good number of birds. But yeah, as you did mention, it's true. I mean, they are indicators of a healthy habitat. If they're not there, then I think things look
Yes.
quite bleak. So, was there a moment in the field, whether through conservation work or through the camera lens, that made you realize how extraordinary birds really are?
Through conservation, yeah, sure. I think in Pake Tiger Reserve, WTI has worked with the community and the forest department over the years for protecting the hornbill species over there. Uh, Started the work back early 2000s, where we promoted alternative hornbill beaks for the community. They had their own traditional uh, rituals where they used to hunt hornbills and then adorn their casques as part of their headgear, the traditional headgear. And what we tried to do was bring in, they were synthetic or I think it was fiberglass hornbill beaks. Yeah, sorry. So we not just developed them, we also worked with the community, trained them to make them. And now there are many other organizations working on this. And this was done through our rapid action projects, the projects which I headed up back 2003. I think that was the first intervention that we did. But to see that over the years, the trend has changed. People now like using the artificial beaks. It's more durable, it's more stylish, and so they prefer using these. So the experience that I have in the field is that I used to visit to monitor the work back in the day. I mean, not recently, a few years ago, and sitting in those villages around West Bank, Sejosa as the place that is there. You in the evenings you see the hornbills fly past across the river, and that experience is something which I mean, I don't really see. It's not something you see every day, where you see uh, a whole flock of wreathed hornbills just flying over the sunset sky and flying across, and they're going to their roosting trees wherever they are, but they just fly past, and that was quite an experience.
It's actually an amazing experience to share. Also, coming, I mean, since we're mentioning about the northeastern belt, about the migratory birds like the Amur falcon that come in through. Also, I guess WTI did work on sensitizing the community there as well in regards to the Amur falcons.
Yeah.
Could you shed some light on that as well?
Yeah, the initial interventions that we did. So, part of the nature of the work that I do at WTI is that we are very flexible and we are able to quickly mobilize support to any conservation challenges that come up. And this in particular was something which was highlighted by a photographer conservationist of Conservation India, late Ramki Srinivasan. And if you remember the stories that came out around that time, which highlighted the issue with the threat on ground. And so WTI was able to work with the community and the forest department in those particular villages. Initially, it wasn't just sensitization, it was also, we tried to, we turned hunters to protectors in those forests, and it was community land actually. And yeah, over the next few years, the hunting in that area actually turned to zero, and we were able to ensure that. Uh, so it's obviously community participation is key, and it's not just that they are traditional hunters. We're not going to change that. We can't change something that you've been doing for generations, but just talking to them, involving them, engaging them. Obviously, there should be some incentive for them as well in doing this, but it's a process. It's not an immediate thing that you can change immediately. But yeah, I mean, I think that was one of WTI's conservation success stories that we call an institutional milestone. And yeah, it's quite a conservation story in the Northeast. Now the communities have taken onus of it, and the forest department in Nagaland especially are very protective of these species, and it's become a global phenomenon of sort that everybody goes there in November, December, or November when the falcons arrive. Yeah, they're my species, and I was lucky to see a few of them. Not in Nagaland, I saw them in southern Assam, Dima Sao, where we worked with some of our partners over there as well. But yeah, the sight that you see of thousands, hundreds and thousands of Amur falcons dotting the sky is quite phenomenal.
Absolutely, and also the journey that they take, coming in all the way from Africa, crossing around, and then moving and coming
complete
to
circle, correct.
Yeah,
They fly all through India, across India. You see them across Madhya Pradesh and Goa, and over the ocean,
And over the ocean.
Africa, and then back again. The whole thing for migration is, I think, quite an achievement. The whole thing is a major feat. And the same bird comes to the same garden every year without fail.
Wow.
I'm not talking about Amur falcon now. I've just gone off topic a little bit. But migration, you'll see a certain warbler. He'll come to the same garden in Noida or in Gurgaon and Delhi year after year after year. It's amazing how they know their way, how they find their way.
Absolutely. I mean, interesting point that you just mentioned out. But so coming to the point where on this Migratory Bird Day reminds us one of nature's most incredible phenomena. It's an absolute thing where these birds are traveling such great distances. So from both of your perspectives, what makes migratory birds so remarkable?
I would think it's the sheer scale of the feat. Like this tiny little bird will cross over continents and oceans to reach where it has to reach. So, but we often focus on the start point and the end point. But for me, the in between is much more important. The journey it takes from Central Asia to reach anywhere, Kerala. So, through the journey, it relies on a series of chain of intact landscapes where it stops for refueling, whether it be forests, wetlands, anything. So, if any of these refueling stops get interrupted or the area is destroyed, it spoils the migration, the whole route. It spoils the whole route of migration, basically. So it's very important to keep the entire route unaffected by. So basically, it's the sheer scale of the feat which is so impressive. Like the World Migratory Bird Day reminds us of this incredible phenomena where these little creatures cross continents and oceans. But we often focus on where they start and where they end. But for me, the most important, remarkable part is the in between part of the journey itself. They rely on a chain of intact landscapes like wetlands and forests as refueling stations. If even one of these links is lost or disturbed, the entire migration is at risk. Seeing them arrive after thousands of kilometers is a testament and the endurance to life.
The entire journey, I mean, just incredible. And the kind of elements that they come across, storms, rains, winds, threats, aeroplanes, and so on and so forth. So
Hunters,
people.
In fact, it's not just birds. Now we're talking about it. The turtles. I mean, a lot of animals do this. Turtles in Odisha, They come year after year to the same beach to nest, and they lay, I don't know, a few 100,000 eggs, out of which some survive, some don't. And when the baby gets out of the eggs and walks to the ocean, he imprints that geomagnetic on himself, and he goes to sea. And for next few years, he's out in sea, feeding, getting bigger, getting matured, and eventually comes to back to the same beach to nest himself or herself.
Absolutely. I mean, all these animals are migrating for a reason. Amrit, would you like to share?
I mean, yeah, at the risk of not losing much time, I mean, I have a story to stress upon that it's not not just the scale, but that instinct to migrate within them. Uh, there in Arunachal again, there was these two black-necked cranes, and one of them got attacked by a dog, and thanks to the community people over there who raised the alarm of it, we were able to go and treat it. Now it was a pair, there were two of them, and we this one can't fly now, and it's because its wings were damaged enough or the feathers were missing, and so it is not able to fly, and it was still recovering. So we had made a little temporary open air boma around it so that other dogs can't come and damage it, but or attack it. But when the time came, its mate, its partner, had to fly back, and it 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 didn't. The whole connection that they have, the bond that they have, the instinct to migrate was bigger than that, and so it couldn't wait, and it left its flew away. So it's a sad story. I mean, obviously it's sad, but the slight positive that we got out of it is that the bird can't fly, unfortunately, but it has recovered from its injuries and continues to live on in a half-open boma. But yeah, migration and that instinct inside birds.
So even if one wetland, forest patch, grassland, or a coastline along a migratory route is lost or disturbed, what does it mean from both of your, views? I mean, points in regards to what would happen. I mean, I'll.
See, the bird would find alternate places to go and feed and rest, but it just breaks that chain where it has a certain route it's been following year after year after year. And often there, like, could be wetland which is dry this year and there's no water. It will go to the next wetland to feed, recover, to refuel, and get on with its journey.
Amrit,
What do
would
you
you like
think?
to add something to this?
Yeah, I mean, from our perspective, where we are just, some birders in a city going to see the bird in that one landscape, and then the next year we go there, that wetland is not there because they've filled mud into it or they
Right.
started constructing. There has been, people are researching birds, right? They were researching their ringing birds. They call it putting rings on birds. And I had volunteered with this project. I think it was in Tamil Nadu. I forgot the name of the wetland, but somewhere near the black buck sanctuary that they have over there. Was it Vedaranyam? I think somewhere around there, where they were in these salt pans, they were ringing birds. And that time I was an intern or a volunteer in new in conservation circuit.
Point Calumet, probably.
Point Calumet, sorry, yeah, Point Calumet Black Buck Sanctuary. So the they found birds, or one of the birds that they were trapping to research had a ring on it which said 15 years. So that bird's been coming back there to that site for 15 years during the season, and then is going on its own path wherever it's going. So that's, we don't see the bigger picture when you're just going there to see the bird at that scale. But I think the larger picture is obviously you're not probably immediately directly threatening that bird's species. They will always find another place. But you're disturbing its routine or disturbing that one route that is already there in its head that it has to take this route. And for that itself, it is something which should be looked into and taken care of at least and not disrupted.
Yeah, birds also make the territory for feed. I think gets affected.
Yeah.
Pattern, the territory.
But have you come across any kind of places or bird populations change over time in ways that were worrying for you in the field? Like,
Right here in New Delhi, in fact, right on our outskirts of Delhi, we had a place called Basai wetland, which was, we found it in about the year 2000. And it was an amazing, amazing wetland. And we called the BNHS to do ringing camps there for 3 or 4 years. We did a lot of bird watching there. We would go there every weekend for bird watching. And sometime during the last 10 years, it all changed. That land was private land, flooded by the drain over there. It's changed hands. It's sold as real estate. And now the apartments there. So there are no birds there. They were one of the hot spots of Delhi NCR 15 years ago.
And in that form,
Yeah.
it's quite an impactful story. I mean, thing that you've got to see, you're getting to see.
So birds in the urban areas, they're just getting further and further and further away. Earlier to birdwatch from central Delhi, we would drive half an hour. Now we're driving 1.5 hours. Just because we are developing at such a rapid scale, and which also affects the nesting of birds. People keep telling me कि sparrow नहीं है Delhi में, sparrow नहीं है, sparrow नहीं है, sparrow कहाँ चले गया? Sparrow is not really, it's not declined as such in Delhi. It has. So what's happened is that you see earlier, all our houses we had these chhajjas and little holes and things in the walls where these sparrows would nest. Now they're all gone. Now our houses are made of steel and glass. There's no place for sparrows to nest anymore. So they are not in the real urban areas. They go more to the villages around, and you find them all there, the sparrows.
I mean, development is a good thing, but done it in a right way. Do you guys agree? Or would you like to add your thoughts or inputs and share your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, as long as it's done a good way, like places like your Aravali Biodiversity Park or the Yamuna Biodiversity Park, where they've done urban restoration. The large-scale real estate, I don't think in any way is a good thing. I mean, I happen to live in one of those buildings, but it's not ideal for. I mean, it's not just birds. Any sort of landscape, actually, those things are cement towers of destruction of sort, I guess. So, but having these little patches of places that are in between, and as long as the development doesn't go and like it is spreading, but like slow down, I guess, but that's not.
Or give them more space, or maybe.
So then keep the wetland. Don't fill the mud. Don't fill mud
Absolutely.
into it. But
Yeah.
like
Preserve-
they're not protected areas. These are all outside the said things of the Indian law of like protection. But and a real estate builder is not going to give you that space.
The breeding of birds is indirectly related to the breeding of mankind. So when the mankind breeds, he needs spaces to live. So you make buildings, and the birds don't stop. Birds go away.
Well, I mean, there are often a tendency to celebrate birds in photographs and calendars or social media, but not always think enough about the fragile habitats behind those images. Why is that connection so important to make now? I mean, as you had pointed out, that development is happening, and I guess this is the way to showcase how beautiful these birds are to people, and I mean, and what else can we do?
See, like you said, basically conservation and photography are two sides of the same coin. Photography is often the front door to conservation. While a scientist works with data, a powerful image can create an emotional bridge that helps people care more deeply about a species faster than the facts alone. So they both aid each other, camera and the conservation. But beyond the emotion, there's a very practical scientific way. Today, our photographs and observations are recorded on platforms like eBird, which help scientists gather data about the changing ecosystem, the changing climate system, climate change, everything. So I think they're both very needed together.
Like the example I was giving of the Amur falcons, right? Where, Conservation India highlighted the whole thing. There was a lot of media that was done around that one story that came out of it, which then pushed the conservation action. It wasn't just WTI, there were other organizations who were also there on scene and trying to protect these birds. So photography is a tool when used responsibly to help boost conservation or collaborate with conservation practitioners, with policymakers, with the media, and try and get some conservation action results or an impact on.
I find it quite interesting that both conservationists and photographers rely so much on observation, patience, and understanding bird behavior. Do you feel that conservation and photography complement each other, as you had mentioned, eBird? But any more examples that you'd like to add on here?
More storytelling, and conservation needs that. I mean, I can do a lot of conservation work on ground, right? I can save a million Amur falcons or I can save 1,000 wetlands. But if I'm not able to tell that story the right way, show those results, which I guess photography or filmmaking is an important tool to tell your story. Uh, document it the right way from start to finish, and you got your story. And so that's one way I think where it is a powerful tool of collaboration, can work side by side. And there are a lot of films now that are coming out, right? There's so many organizations like Round Glass and Dusty Foot and all these people who are coming up with these small conservation stories that come up. So definitely. And if there are people who like going to see birds or like to photograph birds and all that, if they put this little bit of thought into it, where tell a story with it and bring importance towards it, then you shed light on things, or you shed light on those birds, and more people will get attracted to it. Obviously, not responsibly, of course, but yeah, I mean, I think storytelling is an important tool.
Like you mentioned, Amur falcon I think, came into focus with pictures.
Yeah.
People were showing pictures of the Amur falcons being captured in Nagaland, being sold on the streets.
Yep.
These local people carrying sackfuls of. So the image is very powerful. I don't think someone just telling you verbally would have had the same effect. The images of those Amur falcons being sold in the market, being carried on the backs with, like just legs tied in like 100 birds in your hand. That's very powerful storytelling. And that's, again, it's conservation.
I mean, absolutely. Even I had an experience where I was watching Animal Planet, and there was a show on animal rescue, and then how they were talking about how owls, are looked at in a very negative way because they're nocturnal birds. But I remember the day when I rescued my first animal or a bird that I rescued was an owl. It was a barn owl chick. I remember there was a man who was telling me that's a bad luck. Let it go, throw it away, don't carry it and run around. But yeah, I mean that
Right.
visually, the way the story was told in that small short video that I watched, that kind of changed my perspective.
So we often hear about what you just said about owls being bad omen and bad everything. People think that. So whenever I hear that, I say that the owl is actually the savari of Lakshmi ji. So you're very lucky you have an owl with you.
True.
You're actually good luck, not bad luck.
Absolutely. I mean, they do so much more, so much good for us, controlling the rodent population in our urban landscapes. How they have so adapted to the concrete jungle now.
I think that's the one thing that I have in my tall towers are a bunch of barn owls that you can hear screeching every now and then, and yeah, that's there.
What responsibility comes with photographing birds, especially when it comes to ethics, distance, and not disturbing the subject? I mean, we come across, a lot of people, a lot of photographers going in so close and trying to capture a chick and the female around. I mean, how important it is to follow ethics when especially photographing birds.
While your gear is a wonderful tool, I think ethics, patience, and observation are your foundation of everything. And you have to understand that the habitat and respect the bird and any animal's space. There's a safe zone where the birds and the animals will feel safe with you. You don't want to intrude their space. You don't want to make them feel uncomfortable. A picture taken with an animal or a bird being uncomfortable is no good a picture. So I think the ethics plays a very, very important role in today in photography.
Absolutely. Also, we've seen across like birds coming in from such great distances, coming in to rest in that wetland, and all of a sudden there are people rushing in on their boats trying to get a better shot.
Correct.
The birds are flying off again. I mean,
It's that age of social media where you want to get some likes, and so no, that's a wrong thing to do. You want to respect that safety zone of the bird, where the bird is completely comfortable till where you are, there, till where distance you reached. You don't go any further beyond that.
absolutely. So, well, I used to be a naturalist, and a lot of times people do ask me, okay, I hope, can we go a bit closer? Can we go a bit closer? I would tell them that, okay, you know what? I mean, just as an example, imagine you've been working the whole day really hard, and when you get home, what would you like to do? Peace and quiet, and you'd like to take some rest, right? So the birds also need some rest, peace and quiet. So let's give them that space, observe them, and and just enjoy seeing them, just being there and displaying whatever their natural behavior is at that spot and time. I mean, so
Also, we don't encourage nest photography. We don't want you to disturb the nesting birds. And not just disturbed, by looking at birds who are nesting, you actually showing the way to the predator, the crows and the eagles to come and get the little chicks and eggs. And so we don't encourage nesting birds, pictures, or being posted on social media. In fact, most bird photography competition will tell you no nesting pictures allowed.
That's actually good that they are putting out those signs.
Yeah.
I mean, for people to actually see and understand and follow, some kind of ethics and rules, especially while observing these amazing animals,
Right.
the natural habitat. Also, I would like to bring in the on-ground conservation perspective here. Could you share how organizations, I mean, like WTI, contribute to bird conservation and habitat protection? Uh, More conservation perspective here. I mean, this is, Amrit just shared few of the kind of conservation work that WTI has done. Uh, what more can other organizations do in regards to this? I mean, of course, awareness is sensitizing people is a great way, but what else can a conservation organization in the field?
I'm not sure about conservation people, but basically every single person you're looking at today, we're looking at everything is linked to habitat loss, linked to climate control, climate change. So we need to be mindful of what we're doing ourselves, which is bringing about this habitat loss in climate.
Absolutely. I mean, everyone has to take their own responsibility, and probably being more responsible can actually make a difference there. I
So when
mean,
the birds arrive later or leave earlier than the time which has been going on for years and years, it's a definite sign for you that things are amiss. It's a ongoing climate change happening basically, and this also does this also mismatches their arrival. Suppose the birds arrive early, and their food source here is not ready, so the whole thing gets impacted. It's a whole circle of life.
true, true, very true. Amrit?
Yeah, I mean, community participation, I guess I'd say that. So the same of people getting more involved. Uh, the birds come to your areas, like, so you are the people can, you don't have to do much. You just have to let them be, or, to keep them safe or to safeguard that whole habitat or the wetlands or the forest that they visit. If say, for example, you're not in an urban landscape, you're in a more rural landscape and you have your community forest that you protect. Um, what I haven't spoken about in WTI is also the Saras Crane projects that we have, where we work with communities in their agricultural fields to protect the birds that come there to nest. And it's about getting people to participate in your work. They don't need to do too much, but just let them be and or protect them in that little way without getting too much involved in it. And I think that involvement is where it'll start. Obviously, in urban areas, the kind of involvement you're trying to get is slightly different from a rural landscape where livelihoods are dependent on these things. So there is a different angle that you take to it. But absolutely, it is something which I think the more you pay attention to, the more slow down and just observe to start with, and something you can get involved with. So I think that's what can help, at least give them some importance, that they're not, I mean, just because they're lesser known species and they're not tigers and they're not elephants doesn't mean that you don't protect them, you don't preserve them. And I'm glad that WTI has some projects like this working on Saras crane, white-winged duck, projects like that. And then things like what we do with our rapid action projects, Amur falcons or black-necked crane, what I've told you. Um, these are, I think, it's not just larger organizations like WTI, but I think at an individual capacity, people can do their own little bit, try and not disturb these birds. And that's the least that you can do, is leave them alone.
I think that shift in public awareness is now happening a lot. A lot of people are now more aware of the surroundings around us. They're more aware of climate change. They're looking around it. The children in school are now more aware, like no plastics, don't do this, don't do that. They're very aware. They go on nature walks, which over the last 20 years had finished off completely. It's not coming back. So I think it's a big plus point. People are getting more aware, more responsible. And as they see the bird as more of a global heritage, they will preserve it. In fact, you mentioned tigers. I would say save tiger, you save the bird. Save tiger, you save the forest. Save the forest, save the bird. It's all connected.
I guess when I was growing up, when I was in school, I never had anybody take me out for a bird or a bird walk or a nature walk. I don't think that was happening in schools 12 years back. I think them now slowly, I think that they've made it a
Right.
point to take students out on walks and stuff and to take them to bird sanctuaries and to show them how the wetlands are. And so there's somebody to explain and share how important this is and showing them that visually, like being there instead of playing a documentary on a screen, which was being done to us in school, which half of the time we were sleeping and snoring in the back in the dark. But it's nice to know that I guess your organization
We also do a lot of bird walks.
bird
and
walks
We're happy
and-
to do it for anybody who wants to do it. We go on a regular bird walks every Sunday where anybody's. We have a lot of people coming in, who from 6 to 80.
So,
Everyone.
So you're seeing a kind of a trend or a change from the last 5-6 years, how
A lot
kind of interest
a lot of
that's been-
youngsters, a lot of
Good.
youngsters are now coming in the field, and they have become really, really good in the bird identification, in the field everything. They're really, really good. The new youngsters. So yes, and they're very keen. They're very. They
that's-
know the birds. They know the calls. They know conservation. They know not to disturb the birds. So it's. I think it's a changing landscape now that we're coming into.
That's wonderful to hear. So, coming to the next question, to actually, for the listeners who may not be birders or photographers, what are the simple ways that they can start noticing and appreciating birds around them?
Slow down, pay attention to these little things, that little dull bird that you see in the bushes that's just going chewy chewy over there. Like, stop, look at it. Don't be in a hurry. I think that to start with helps, especially in an urban area like, Delhi NCR. There is plenty of bird life around you. Sure, there are a lot of common species that you see every day, but if you're not someone who is a birder, is not a bird watcher, then stop and just look at that, listen and pay some attention and try and, just observe it for a second, that it might be doing something peculiar. It might be looking a little peculiar. There might be like, a little bit of blue on it or some nice little color on that dull brown, wherever it is. So, that interests you, that will bring about that interest in you. Look it up. There's so many tools online now that you have. I mean, eBird, iNaturalist is one set, but the State of India's bird, the report which came out last year, now it's an online tool as well. Your backyard bird count is there. There's so much information that is there that which even it's not too technical. It's even a common person can look it up and read it. Look at that bird, find it, and then look it up, read about it. That's what got me interested into bird watching at a later stage. But so I guess that's it. So slow down, pay some attention, listen, watch, observe.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think even in the morning, if you get out and just go for a walk, even in the local park, it's so meditative. It's a stress buster. Just to hear the sounds of nature and just see the green leaves around you. To me, it's a big stress buster. Even if you're not a bird watcher, it's just a nice feeling to go out and hear the bird song and be one with nature.
Absolutely. I mean, I am really lucky at a place where I'm at around the area in Delhi. So there's a big park, and I go sit out on the balcony sipping my tea, and I hear parakeets, I hear peacocks, I hear the barbets. Just absolutely, it's just wonderful just to get up and sit there quietly, listening to these birds. Just around my home. I mean, so they're absolutely wonderful.
Delhi has the second highest number of species found in any capital city of the world.
Oh, that's quite
Number one
interesting.
is Nairobi, and number two is Delhi. We have 500 plus species in Delhi.
I didn't know that. Oh, it's quite an interesting point there. So coming to that, responsible bird tourism can create appreciation not only for the species themselves, but also for the habitats and migratory routes that they depend on. How do you see tourism contributing to bird conservation when it is done thoughtfully and responsibly?
Creates awareness, create job opportunities. So people around living in those areas where you tourism, they get livelihood, they get money. So they're also aware of what's happening and why they're getting the money and why they're getting everything. So they will also take a keen interest in saving the habitat, saving the birds for their own good, which in the end works out for everybody else. So I think responsible tourism does play a big role in promoting a place, promoting the culture of the place, the getting livelihood, more jobs.
Absolutely. I mean, Amrit, would you like to share your perspective
Yeah,
here?
I did talk about, incentivizing your conservation work that you want to do, and these are some ways of bringing that into it responsibly. When responsibly done, again, I'm saying the same thing. Eagle Nest is an example of it. With the Bugun Reserve that is there, and how the community are working to protect that. At the same time, the some of the naturalists that you have in that park who work in the park are locals. Some of the researchers who work in that landscape use community members as their field attendants to help them in the research they're doing. So these are ways of engaging these people so that uh, you know you don't need to tell them how important these birds are. They know it. They've been living with those in those forests for all these years. But how to get something out of that, and it'll also help them protect it better, because now you know that you are bringing in people who'd come from across the world to come and see those birds which are there in your backyard, literally, like your community backyard, the forest you have. And people are coming from from Europe, from America, from a lot of places, and far off places, just to see this. So that can be used as a model in some way, and like where we're working in neighboring landscapes as well, where we're trying to work with the community on their forest. So it's a good what is the word? Not a baseline. It's a threshold, I guess, or what do you call it? A benchmark of sort that that is what you want to try and bring up as responsible, sustainable.
That's actually like that's true. I mean, when I visited Shergaon as well, I mean, I could see how passionate the local naturalists were. They were not only focused on the tourism aspect, but also they were so passionate about protecting those habitats, their culture, and sharing knowledge about their culture to us who were just wanting to know much more. I mean, they were so open about it and so welcoming, and so the hospitality was fantastic over there. I mean, in Shigao. Excuse me. But can both of you share an example of a bird, a place, or a field experience that stayed with you and reminded you why this work matters?
I'll start with my backyard, definitely, where I grew up in Kerala. And as a kid, it wasn't much information that I could process at that time. Also, because I didn't have access to the right set of tools to learn all this. I mean, slowly we started, reading magazines like National Geographic or watching Animal Planet eventually, but not at that age. So now when I go back, I think I start noticing the bird life in my backyard, and I can see that wow, there are so many birds over there, and these are not what you'd see in Delhi. Uh, One in particular in that case was a paradise flycatcher, an Asian paradise flycatcher, uh, in the white morph of it with its breeding plumage that it has, if that's the word that we use. And I was lying in bed, and we have these big open windows that it's an old house in Kerala, and so the vintage style windows, which is like got these long rods, but it's a big frame window, and I'm lying down and looking out the window, and suddenly I see this little ribbon of white flying across. And then I was like, is that what I think it is? And I run outside and I try to look for it on top of the trees over there. And I have these tall tamarind trees and, these other trees that are around. And it's way up there. I can see that flash of white. And I think experiences like that is what I was saying, that, people slow down and just observe the things that you find. Obviously, this is quite a bird to fly into your backyard, and obviously, but uh, it's always amazing to just connect with these experiences, and that's one which I'm never going to forget it. And I think I clicked a couple of photos of it with my little camera that I had, and yeah, it's quite a story.
I also had a similar experience with the Asian paradise flycatcher. I mean, it's so beautiful to see, especially in their breeding plumage, the white flash of ribbon. I like the way you put it as a ribbon, just
That's
moving
exactly
around.
what when they fly, it flies like a ribbon.
Yeah, absolutely,
It's beautiful.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
We have them, in fact, at this moment coming in Delhi, the Delhi area. The nest here in the Delhi area, and the Ravlis, April, May, June, here with the pitta.
Oh yes, yes. I'm waiting for that.
Yes, maybe a few more weeks. They've arrived, although they've arrived, but they'll be very vocal in a few. They'll be all over the Ravlis.
Lovely to go out for birding or on bird walks. Yes, Mr. Nikhil, would you like to share kind of a field experience that stayed with you? Maybe seeing some of these flamingos in Sambar Lake or coming across some Amur
Actually,
falcons.
the demoiselle crane in Kichen in Rajasthan. It's just amazing how that one man can make a difference. One man called Sevaram, he started feeding these demoiselle cranes 30 years back or something in his village. And today it's grown into a 15,000 birds come and feed there every morning and see. And, he puts the grains out in the evening. In the morning, we just stand on his terrace and there's calls from all sides and the birds start coming in from all sides. And it's just a very amazing story of conservation, what one man can do. He's a single man, Sevaram, and he's doing this amazing work with cranes in Kichen.
I've seen some videos of.
Yeah, you just stand on his roof and 10,000 to 12,000 cranes come and land in the field right in front of you. Where he's put grain out in the evening and they just feed for next half an hour, 1 hour, they're feeding and they fly away. And they come here every year they come here every year. And when they reach about early December, he feeds them till March every single day. He started this ritual some 30 years back, feeding some birds and rescuing a injured crane. And now it's become a community service where people come and donate grain to him and donate some money to buy the grain and become a big community service now. And it's amazing to see those cranes there.
It's quite an inspiring story. One man can make such a difference.
Absolutely, one man.
So to the audience listening out there, it doesn't really take much of just a little bit of heart, a little bit of an effort to understand these animals, and that's enough to make such a big difference.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, so Nikhil, you've been. I've seen some of your photos. I mean, really wonderful pictures that you've taken. I mean, so many years. You've seen so many beautiful birds across the country, and now, so the question here is now bringing in the photography side a little more. Bird photography is not easy. Birds are fast, alert, and often unpredictable. What really matters when choosing your gear for this kind of work? I guess you've recently moved to an OM system.
Yes. So recently I've been shooting with the OM for the past few months. And what comes to my mind, the birds are very fast and alert, like you said. And to track them and to shoot them, and basically you don't want to come too close. You have to be in the safety zone. So all these factors come into play. So there's something called a pro capture, where when I half press the shutter, I'm already shooting and recording something which the bird hasn't done yet. The minute the bird flies and I press my shutter, I get that whole sequence of events. So it's pro capture. So that's one very helpful feature now that I'm using in this. And then I also use the AI detect focus tracking, which is very fast. And in a whole flock of birds, I can pick out that one spoonbill sandpiper and lock my focus on that and make sure it's locked on that one bird that I want. So that's important. And of course, mobility and reach is very important. So it's very lightweight, which gives me a 2x crop in my lens. So using the 400 becomes the 800. So I get more of the safety zone with the birds. So, and it's light, it's fast to focus, and it's easy to carry in the field for many hours. If I'm out birding for a few hours, it's easy to carry and easy to hold and easy to not tiresome. And finally, it's weather sealed. So if it's a little bit of rain happening, I don't really care that much. I know I'm safe.
Yeah, I saw a video of you just taking a hose and hosing the two OM system cameras down.
So I was on a safari, and the safari was very dusty. And we come back from safari, and I just happened to clean my camera with a hose, and yeah.
So what were the comments that you were getting when you posted that video?
People wanted to know if it's AI. People wanted to know if the camera was a plastic camera and was a fake camera. And then I got some good ideas. They said, use dishwasher, put it in the microwave to dry it off. So there's some good ideas I could use maybe going further. But yeah, weather sealing is a good point to have because you don't really want to worry about rains, a little bit of water when you're in the field. You don't want to like go under the wraps and put your camera under the bag or something. When you're shooting something and you want to get that action, then a little bit of water, if it's weather sealed, it's a big plus.
Big plus point. So as you mentioned about AI and AI autofocus in the camera system, AI is now the next big thing.
Right.
So my question here to you is, we are seeing technology become an increasingly important part of how people engage with nature, including AI-enabled binoculars that can help identify birds in real time. Do you see these kind of tools are helping make birding more accessible, educational, and ultimately more supportive
They
of
are
conservation?
very helpful, but I am not a big fan of them because it takes the fun and the challenge out of birding. You want to point something and say, oh, black red start, because it's shown there. It takes the challenge out of the whole thing. It takes the fun out of the bird watching. But yes, it will definitely help newcomers. It will help people get into bird watching. It will help the casual bird watcher to identify birds in his garden. Yes, so AI is the big new thing, and it will take over finally.
Amrit, would you like to share your perspective here?
Yeah, I understand what Nikhil is saying about from a birder's perspective that you lose that bit of the fun part of it. Finding that bird sitting inside the bush which you can just hear. But as a conservationist, I'd say they are good education tools that you can do or nature education that you can bring out. Like if a naturalist is taking school kids to go and see this bird, and he has a scope, and there are these tools which have these adapters where you can put your phone onto the scope or things like that. Then you literally can see what the person is showing, and it's easier to show it up close from a nature education perspective. Yeah, so not as a bird watcher, but definitely as a conservation practitioner, I guess these tools can come in handy and can be used by the right set of people to give out the right kind of message.
Yeah, true. I mean, technology is always going to evolve. It's going to be, always. It's too fast. We're just. I guess few years back we're just hearing about AI and stuff, and now it's actually taking over quite fast. And it's great to know that a lot of conservation organizations also are using AI in the field for conservation, and it is doing quite a. It is helping wildlife conservation for sure. So for someone, for someone who wants to begin bird photography, what would both of you say is more important to start with? Technical gear, patience, ethics, observation, or understanding habitats and their behaviors?
I think gear is a very important thing, but over the gear, it's ethics, patience, observation, learning the habitat, learning the bird behavior. All that scores much higher than photography. Once you know all that, photography becomes an easy game of play. So I guess everything else but the camera. Camera comes last in this.
If you could if you could each change one thing in the way people think about birds, what would it be?
Birds are as important as tigers. Save the birds, save your tigers.
Yeah, it's same. I mean, it's not like ye chidiya hi to hai. It's not the same. That's how you do it, right? It's just as important, and their habitats are just as important. Individuals are just as important.
Everything has its role in the whole system. I mean, even an ant, a bird that's migrating from one part of the world to the other, they all play a role. It's balance of life, actually. But yeah,
Like I told the story earlier about the Chinese story, where in the 1950s they had this. They thought sparrows were eating all the grains, so let's kill the sparrows. So they killed all the Eurasian tree sparrows. The locust population exploded. As a result, all the grains were eaten by the locust now,
oh,
and they had a famine.
so sad.
So it's the whole circle of life. You can't eliminate just one part of it. The bird, the tiger, the bee, the ant, everything is important.
Absolutely right. So, as we mark World Migratory Bird Day, what is the one message you would most like our listeners to take away from this conversation?
See, what gives me hope is the growing community of people who are starting to notice birds around them. Whether it's through a camera lens or a binocular, we have more and more people now engaging in this field, engaging and enjoying nature, going out. It's like a citizen science. And the more people are aware of birds, the more people think that it's important, the more you will save the bird, the more you'll save yourself.
Amrit?
Absolutely the same thing. So it's not just about clicking photos of these migratory birds for your likes on social media, but go a step further in terms of understanding, observing them a little bit more, and try to do something with the content that you can generate out of it. Better preserve these habitats, better protect these people. And World Migratory Bird Day, just step out, go around, look around, see what you can find. You'd be amazed to see what you can find in your own backyard.
And finally, when you look at birds, whether through science, conservation, or a camera lens, what gives you hope?
The hope is that, like I said, more and more people are now in the field and they are looking at birds. They're realizing how important these birds are to us. You save the birds, you save yourself.
Yeah, it's become a little more accessible, the information that we have, thanks to social media and digitization of everything. And yeah, I think these can be used as tools to better protect birds and their habitats and tell their stories, which I think is key.
So that comes to the last question from me to you guys. But really, thank you for coming and being there and sharing your experiences and the kind of conservation stories from the field itself, and how important these special days are for us to just think back and look forward to, and also share this message of how these habitats, these birds, how everything is intertwined, and how important this is for all of us. So thank you guys.
Thank you for
Thank you
having
very
us.
much.
Thank you, Adil.